Hello and welcome to another video, this time looking at GTFO in the air. Now before we get stuck into the whole GTFO and Second Life side of it, the first thing I want to do is show you a really cool set of tools that are available for pilots stroke aviators out in Second Life. Now this first one is an important one, and that's the Shergood Aviation radar. Now I will put the link down in the description below, but a good start would be to come to this site and go to the radar and just check out the map. It's basically the big map as we all know it, but it has all of the airfields and anywhere else that you can land a flying vehicle at. And indeed, not only flying vehicles, but also shows you docks and all the other things. So what I'm going to do in this example is I've decided I want to fly to this airfield here, which happens to be White Star, which is this one here, which says the runway 27, which also happens to be the default location of the map when you come to here. But I'm going to be flying from Juneau. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you found an airfield somewhere in SL, find out what it's called, usually in the Sims description. Then come across here and you'll notice there's an aircrafts option here. Now we can literally search for whatever airfield we want. Now I know it's Juneau, so if we do that, JU, look, there you are, Juneau Regional Airport. Click on it and the map will take you there. So here's where we're going to start. And there's a nice picture there, and the orientation of the runway is there. So I want to fly to White Star. How am I going to do that? Well, I can use this to help me figure out how I'm going to navigate. So something you'll see on here, these little triangles are like waypoints. They're navigation points, and they have names. For those of you that are familiar with aviation, you'll be familiar with this kind of thing. But for those that aren't, these things allow you to plot your route. So you just remember these, and you can make a note, or what aviators call a flight plan, of where you're going to go, and so you can follow them. I'm not going to create any flight plans or go into any of the deep aviation stuff on this video. I'm not a pro SL pilot. I may or may not have had some simulator experience in the past, but I certainly don't claim to be any kind of expert. So if there's any errors in here, I apologize, but this is just basic flying, get you from A to B without any of the technical side of it. So the first thing we'll do is we'll be taking off from here and we'll fly ourselves towards this one here. Then let's have a look, scroll the map across. The next one, oh, and by the way, there you go, that's their real aircraft that are actually using the hood, which I will show you as well, so you can see where they are. They're very close to each other, those two, all three. I don't know how many of them are there at the moment. There seems to be what looks like possibly a boat and an armed escort or something. But you can see them when it shows you, when they're a bit further apart, what height they are and everything else. So that's a cool feature as well. So we'll fly up to here, and I think we'll go in a straight line across here till we get to the next waypoint here, which, for those of you who are familiar with the Second Life map, this is like Tradewinds Yacht Club over here, and that goes down to the Blake Sea. We're going to go north, so let's just bring the map down. We're going to want to go up here from here, so let's keep going. Right, the next waypoint obviously is this one here, so we'll go via that as well. Now for those that are familiar with it, there's a bit of a cut across here when you're sailing, and this is the Fiji area and yacht club. So we're going to fly across here. Another cool feature on this map, you see these? If you click on them, it'll actually show you their land security orb warnings, where somebody, Sukino Firehorn, has gone around checking them and letting you know where they are, so that you don't have the misfortune of being ejected when you fly over. So you see these, don't fly over them, avoid. Okay, so we're going to go from our little waypoint there, and we're going to carry on up here. And now we've got this one. Now then, this is the airfield we want to land at. That's a little close for us to sort of fly to this and then try and land it. So to give yourself a little bit of room, what I'm going to suggest we do is we'll go from this one. We will head up here looking for this one. When we see this one, we'll take a right and we'll come into this sim here, because this sim here, it allows us to set up the runway so it's in front of us, and then we've got time to get ourselves down and hopefully land on it. On that point, in the real world, pilots, they do obviously learn how to fly in and out of regular airfields, but they all have proper guides which help them to know, especially if they've never been the airfield before. They need to know what height the airfield is. They need to know how high they need to be in order to have a good landing. While a lot of pilots have the skill to land without these things, they just help to not only assist the pilot, but in certain cases, if it's a busy airfield, they have rules about what height people are at, so it helps them to make sure that they stay in within that. So what we're going to do here, we know where we're going now. Next thing we want to know is if how do I explain this? We want to know well, they're basically called approach plates, but we want to know exactly what height and speed and distance and other things we want to be to try and get ourselves a best landing on this runway. Now, it would appear, because it's been a while since I've been on this website, there's been many upgrades, and there is now an approaches section. So, first thing to do, make sure we know what airfield we're interested in. This one is called SLWS. So, SLWS in the search, runway 27. And here it is, okay? So what this is showing you see here, these are the names of the sims in that block. So we're going to be coming down from here, and if we have a quick journey back, just to show how that works, back in the radar, we know Pleda is a navigation point. We're hoping to come across here. So SLWS approaches, SLWS, runway 27. Pleda is the sim where that triangle is. So we're going to come along, and then we're going to go into this one. Now, the proper way of doing this, looking at this, is you would presumably approach from somewhere over here, over the TFE Giles. Gonna have to cough, excuse me. And then we would set ourselves up above that sim and start coming in. Well, that's up to you. The proper way, as I say, would probably be to come up here, fly yourself all the way out to here, turn around, and then start approaching in. But I'm probably maybe just going to go into Lunar and join at this point, and take it in from there. There's a certain amount of realism, and that's completely up to you. To be honest, starting from these points gives you much better run-in, but I'm just going to try bringing us in like this, because that's the first water sim on the map, and then we'll fly in and land. And this is the runway here. Now it tells you information. The runway's landing strip 256 meters, the elevation is 29 meters. This little bit of the diagram here is important because it tells us what is the ideal height to approach at. So at this point here, we want to be 99 miles in the air. See? And then FAF, we want to be 99 miles here. Now, in a perfect world, if we get ourselves at a height of 99 at the point we hit this, and we then set our aircraft to the best of our ability with what we've got on the aircraft that tells us, set it to 6 degrees of nose down, pitch down. I say you're not a professional pilot, so I don't know all the technical terms, but basically nudge the nose down to 6 degrees, and then you will descend down that path. Now, ideally, if you get it right and you do get in the middle of Lunar and you are at 99 and you do drop to 6 degrees and then just keep coming in with your flaps full on and everything else, you should, when you reach this point here, map, just before you land, should be at 40 meters, and then you should be able to drop it nicely on the runway. And that's basically helped you already. So even if you've never flown before, you've got some idea of where you should be at in order to land this thing. And this will cover all airfields that are here on the map. So anyone you choose to go to, find the approach plate for it, and basically find out which sim you need to start at, what heights you need to be for those sims, how many degrees it recommends you come down at. Gives you a good idea of how long the approach is, so you know when you reach this point you've only got 560 miles before you touch down. So you can print these off presumably or whatever and have them there for yourself if you want, but I'm just using this as a loose guide to tell me, right, I need to be at about 99 miles in the sky. There's loads of features on this website. Again, if you're into aviation and you know what you're talking about, you'll know what all this is, and you'll be able to knock yourself out, as they say. There's plenty of things. You can create flight plans, there's proper NOTAMs, there's all sorts of things you can do. And it all accompanies the transponder HUD that you get in world, which I will explain when we go in world. So I think we've probably covered everything I need to cover on the Shergood Aviation website. Again, if you don't know what that is, look in the description below, there'll be a link. Now I'm going to jump over now into Second Life and we can take it from there. And the first thing we'll look at is the HUD that relates to this, and it'll all start to make a bit more sense. So over we go. Okay, so the first thing, talking about the HUD that you can get, there are two versions of the HUD. This version that I'm showing you now is the advanced version of the HUD because it has the GPS, and that's 500 Linden dollar. The other version is free, so feel free to go grab that. I will put all the links in the description so you can find them. And the free one allows you to have a squawk code, which is your transponder number. Every plane basically has a number which shows air traffic control who that is, so when they're tracking you, they know. From our point of view as fellow aviators, on our GPSs, we can see you on there. It will show us a picture of your aircraft or boat or whatever it might be, and it will give us the identification that you've given it, so we can see you, we know where you are, tells us what height you're at, tells us what speed you're going at, so we've got some idea of how to avoid you. That will also mean that you'll show up on the big map that I showed you on the website as well. So you'll be able to get on that free of charge, and I recommend anyone who wants to go certainly flying for sure. But you can use it, like I say, for sailing, but if you're definitely going to go flying in SL, even if you're doing it as a beginner, just grab yourself that free HUD. It just means you can see where everyone else is and everyone else can see where you are, and then you've got more chance of just avoiding people, or people will avoid you so you don't get a giant airliner suddenly appear in front of you. So this one here on the marketplace, $500 is the one that I have. I'm going to close that, and as you can see it here, when you actually buy it and attach it, it will appear on the front, and it always appears in the off mode. This HUD tracks where you are, so obviously when you go flying, me personally, I attach it and then I enable it when I'm ready. Remember to disable it if you go anywhere private, because again it tracks where you are, so if you've finished flying, just make sure that you turn it off and detach it or whatever. Just turning it off should be enough to stop it tracking where you are, so when you're visiting your friend's private house you don't suddenly show up as an aeroplane in their living room effectively. As long as you remember that though, you should be absolutely fine. So I'm here at the Juneau Regional Airport. I've chosen it because it's a quiet one, and people with terrible flying skills like me should feel fairly safe practicing flying from here. And you know, it's just nice, and it's nice to start in a quiet airfield, because somewhere like Hollywood is very busy, and you know, you want to at least get a bit of practice before you land there so that you can fit in with all the busy traffic that you get there. Now the next thing you're going to need is an aircraft. Now that's completely up to you. There are loads of aircraft for sale on the marketplace. Find the one you like. There may well be some free aircraft. I don't know of any free aircraft off the top of my head right now, so I can't advise you on getting a free one, but I'm sure if you ask around or if you do a bit of searching, you'll find a free aircraft if you want to get up on a budget, just to see if it's for you or not. In my case, I'm going to use an aircraft that I already have, and it's GTFO enabled. I'm just going to drag it out. Now, with a lot of these aircraft, they don't always come GTFO enabled out the box. Some of the other videos you've watched, I've had a train which was GTFO enabled out the box, and there are boats which are also GTFO enabled out the box. Many of these aren't GTFO enabled out of the box, but as per the GTFO video on how to make a vehicle compatible, and I'll just very quickly show you it on this aircraft. If I right click on it and choose edit and then go into content, you'll notice it has a box inside there called GTFO ! Thork. Basically I added that into the box, and I also added the Get the Freight Out API. Now that, I don't even know if that's the current API or not, I'm going to be honest, because I haven't checked. I think it is. I don't think there's been an API update, but do check. If you ever do this on any kind of vehicle and you haven't used the vehicle for a while, just make sure that your latest GTFO pack has the same API in, and if not, switch the APIs out. But I'm pretty sure this API works, because I'm pretty sure I used it the other week. So this is a Piper. There are all sorts of planes, of course. Find my favourite one. This one's a nice training aircraft. It's very nice to fly. It also looks very nice. You can change it, by the way. This is the British looking one, because it's the closest to general aviation where I live. But you can choose ones that are more American or more Italian or whatever you might want. Or you can just go ahead and actually retexture them yourself. It has all the features for that. I'm not going to go into the full details of how the aircraft works, but if you go and check it out, I'll put a link again below to ZSK's shop so you can go and check them out yourself. You can literally customize it however you want. So to open the door, I'm just going to click on the door and the door's going to open. There we go. And then I'm just going to right click and I'm going to choose fly, which will pop me inside. Now I personally fly in mouse look, but that's again just like the driving, a personal preference. You might want to fly like this from the outside, which you can do. Choose whichever method you prefer. Now I'm a bit tall for this aircraft. I'm a bit tall for most things really. Bit of an Amazonian giant in Second Life look. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the seat, which on this particular aircraft I can type the word seat into local chat. It brings me a menu up, and I happen to know that I need one -10 and a -5. Now pure laziness on my part means that I haven't done this and then saved a copy of it, but you could save a copy of it once you've got it the way you want. There you go, that puts me at a height where I feel quite comfortable. Now you'll notice that my head's bobbing around. That's because there's an animation when you've got the yokes out. So what I then do is I take the yokes off by typing Y in local chat. That stops the animation and means that I'm now in a fixed view, which I much prefer. So I can see all the instruments. I don't have the yokes in the way, so I can fly this as close as I can to a real aircraft. So first of all, I should probably shut the door. So click on the door. There it is, door's closed. Okay, now all these aircraft come with manuals, and I recommend you read them. They tell you how to fly them. They also come with takeoff checklists, and in the real world most pilots use checklists when they're going to fly anything, and it's quite an involved checklist. Those that are really into their simulation will know that there are a number of things you check before you even start the engine, let alone take off. I haven't done any of those checks. If you really want to get into the simulation side of it, you can. That's completely up to you, and there is a large aviation community in Second Life who I no doubt know has got simulator types in there and even real pilots, so they can give you advice on how to do it as real to the real thing as you want. I will be doing it fairly real just because I have a little bit of experience, but again, I'm not a pro pilot. Don't expect an amazing takeoff or landing or anything, but I can get by, and hopefully watching me do it you'll be able to get by, and you'll get better at it the more you do it. Now I'm going to stop this video just to give myself a bit of a drink, and then we'll start by starting this plane up and getting it onto the runway and just showing you the hood so that we can plan where it is we're going, and I can show you how the hood is quite a useful thing to have. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do before we go any further is I'm going to switch on my hood. So where the off button is here, just click it, give it a second to load the texture. Talking of textures and loading, it's going to take a little while to load because I've got a very high draw distance. I'd probably recommend that you use a low draw distance when you first get here and do all these things first, and then up your draw distance. When I'm flying personally with my computer settings and my graphics card and the age of my machine, I'm usually okay with about a 512 draw distance. Adjust it for your personal requirements. Your machine may be better with a lower draw distance. It might be a really new machine and be fine with a massive draw distance. But the important thing here is that the draw distance is enough for you to see other aircraft and obviously enjoy the scenery, because that's one of the great things about flying. So here we have it telling us to enable here the GPS. I'm going to click on it and give it a second to load. There you go, look at that. So now I have the map. Now if I click on it in the corner there, it makes it nice and big so I can see it. So if I want to have a good close look at where I'm navigating, I can see an exact copy of the map from the website. See, so this is why this is handy, because I can see where I'm going to go. Now there's a button here called, I'm not going to go all the buttons, but this one here is, click on it, is our flight destination, says who I am. Now in type, I'm just going to put GA for general aviation, because I'm not a jet plane or a passenger flight or a cargo flight. Although I am doing a bit of GTFO, this isn't really a cargo plane. So just press GA and press enter, and then I think you can just click save. And just to double check, if you go back in there, it didn't save it. I've had a little trouble with this, I don't know if it's just me being silly. Maybe you just click in another field, there you go. Click in another field after typing it and then click save. And then just click it again to double check, there you go. So my bad. So type in whatever type you are. You could put cargo, whatever. Your tail number if you want to put your tail number in there, and your flight number if you want to put your flight number in there. I'm not personally filling those in, but you know, again, down to the realism of the game that you're playing, you can fill them in, which is great, and those people that are heavily into aviation will understand. or those that want to get into it will soon understand that they're really cool things to have and adds to your role play. So let me just click the save button again to get rid of that. So that's me set now, so people know when they look at the map they'll see me. I'm to give you some idea just a little bit here. 1200 Squawk ID is VFR, which is visual flight rules, which basically means I'm not flying to a flight plan. I'm just going to fly with my eyes. So I'm just flying around, looking out the window. I'm not really flying with my eyes, as you all know. I'm cheating a little bit in that respect because I have got this map. But in real life, pilots do actually have maps on their lap, so I'm not really cheating. But I'm not. The important bit to differentiate there, for if you go further, is in VFR you just go where you like. If you're going to file a flight plan, which I believe you can do on this, like in a jet plane or whatever for an airline, then it matters, and you have all these numbers, and then it means that air traffic control know exactly who you are, what flight you are, where you're going, exactly where you're going, etc., etc. Beyond the scope of this video, but that's just to give you a little bit of background on it. Okay, so that's now sorted out. We can click on that again to shrink it down. Back in the aircraft. With this aircraft, starting procedure, we've got some buttons here. We click that one, that switches a fuel pump on. Click the one next to it. Left mouse click, by the way, in here. Puts the landing lights on, because you should use your landing lights for landing and taking off. Switch on your wing lights so that your flashing lights are on so that people can see you. And then I think we need to turn the battery on, which is there. In fact, I may have done that the wrong way around, actually. You're probably supposed to switch the battery on first and then switch them on. As I said, I haven't read the instructions, and I'm a really bad person. So do read your instructions and whatever. Don't take this as this is the correct way of doing it, but I would switch the power on first. I can't be bothered to take the shot, so you can see my errors as they happen. So I'm going to start the engine now. Turn the key by clicking on the key. There it goes. Start the engine up. For those, again, that go for the full experience, you can go through the full checklist at this point. Checking that your magneto. I don't know that you can do a proper magneto test or anything on this particular plane. I don't think it's got like a left and right or anything, but you can pretend to do the checks as you need to anyway. First thing we're going to do, just have a quick look around with our eyes, make sure that there's no one around. We're not going to crash into anybody. It's all good. Again, we've got the mini-map so we can see if there's anyone around. So, happy that there's no one around, I'm going to let the handbrake off, which is this one here, parking brake. We're now free to taxi around, which is what they call it when you drive around on the floor. So I'm going to get myself to the end of this runway. So, using page up and page down to control the throttle, we'll give it 10% of throttle, just to get ourselves going. Give it just a moment, it's very slow to start. If we want to start a little faster, we can go up to 15. Just to get it moving and then take it back down to 10. And then just use the left and right arrows to steer where you want to go. Now I'm just going to go to the bottom of here, give myself a bit of a run to straighten up. Again, just keep an eye around yourself, just make sure that, you know, obviously you're not going to crash into anybody or anything. This is more important, obviously, if you're at a busy airfield. Just line ourselves up, just take my throttle down a bit, slow me down a little bit. Spin myself around. Now, these lines on the floor, you should follow them. And usually they have green lights that you can see there, or they have red lights. If they have red lights, you shouldn't be going in that direction down it. So follow the greens, and that will lead you around the airport the way you're supposed to go. Now, in most airfields, they have holding markers which look like on roads when you have giveaway signs, they paint the lines on the road. They have similar lines, which I shall show you at the other end. If you see those lines, you stop at them usually to make sure that there's nothing coming before you carry on. So there isn't any here, but I've stopped here just to have a quick look, make sure no one's going to try and land one I'm about to take off. Don't see anyone on my radar. Don't see anybody on my little GPS radar on the left. So to the best of my ability, I don't think anyone's coming. So I'm going to up the throttle again, brakes come off, then 10%, 15%, just get ourselves moving a little bit, take it back down to 10. Just going to crawl forward and get myself on the runway. And then I'm just going to very quickly show you the important instruments on here, which will help you to fly this. And of course, if you've never flown before, don't panic. So hopefully you're alright with the driving bit at the minute. Right, I'm just going to spin it round. It's not really in the middle there, it's not very... It takes a little while in mouse look to get used to where the middle is, and I probably haven't got it right myself, to be honest. Okay, some reason on this aircraft the brake will stay on, but then it won't stay on. Sometimes it locks on, which I don't understand how, but sadly it's not locking on now, so I'm just going to keep my finger on it. Right, in fact, let's be proper about it. We'll put the parking brake on a second, just so we don't go anywhere. Okay, before we take off, and think of it as a last minute check, we have here this round thing on the... well, basically you have 6 instruments, that's the best way to remember. These 6 instruments are important. The one in the right hand side on the top 3, that one tells us how high we are, our altitude. The one directly below it shows us how many degrees our nose is. Now I mentioned before with the landing the 6 degrees. This will show us whether we're close to 6 degrees. If you look at it, you'll see there's the white bars on the left there. The very end segment of those bars is 5 degrees. Right? So if it was going upwards on the 5, that's climbing 5 degrees, and if it's down to 5, we're descending 5 degrees. Or if we carried on down, descending 10 degrees, hold on to your pants. The thing in the middle is a compass on the bottom there, which shows us in which direction we're going. The thing above is our artificial horizon, which shows us basically where we are in respect of the horizon. So if we're turning, as you'll see it tilts, so you can keep your bearing. If things outside go bad, foggy, cloudy, suddenly you can't see, you know where you are with that, and it gives you a means to know which way up you are. The instrument on the left there is your airspeed, and that's quite important just to make sure that it doesn't drop below the safe airspeed. This plane can stall, so you don't want to go too slowly. Basically, if you don't have enough speed when you're flying, the airplane stops gaining lift and starts to drop out of the sky, and it will make a horrible squealing noise to tell you when that's happening. And finally, the thing underneath that, again, just a turn indicator. It shows us how much we're tilting, if we're tilting left or are we tilting right. And a lot of these are fail-safe instruments, so if one instrument went, you've still got the other instrument. If the artificial horizon went and that was still working, we'd at least know if we were tilting left or right. Okay, without further ado then, we're all ready to roll. We know the basic instruments. In Second Life, flying height does vary, but in general practice I found that flying at least 100 meters above is good, because that gets you above band lines, but somewhere between 100 and 200 is a fairly safe height to fly at. Keep an eye out though, be vigilant, especially in busy areas, because you'll have airliners and other things that also fly at a similar height. Though I do believe the airliners prefer to go a little higher than that, but I have actually had one go past me at about the same height, just slightly above me, about 180, I was about 120 I think. In real life, general aviation pilots tend to, certainly in this country, in the UK, they tend to stick around 1,000 to 2,000 feet. There's this little corridor that they can safely float about in there, and they won't get into any of the airspace that belongs to the bigger aircraft. Okay then, here we go. Brake off. A lot of waffle, sorry about that, but I just want to make sure you're all comfortable with it. Now what we're going to do here is push the throttle all the way forward, so page it up all the way. I never use 100% on this aircraft. I'm going to go up to 90 because I don't think you need 100. Up to you again, your preference, but I'm going to use 90 because I know that that's fairly controlled. So here we go. Clicking it, clicking it, clicking it till I get 70, 80, 90. Let it go along the runway a bit. Watch that airspeed. Now the airspeed's flown past 80 now and is going into 100. At that point we just pull the nose back with the with the arrow down button, and we're climbing. Okay. So now I'm going to keep climbing. Now if you look at my climb indicator, it's showing it's not too tall actually, it's probably about 3 degrees. The airspeed indicator is important to watch. You'll notice the airspeed indicator starts to get slower and slower, it's getting closer to 60. You don't want to get too slow when you're climbing, otherwise you'll stall. It takes a little while to get used to that, so pushing it up a bit, I'm keeping, see it's getting lower, it's getting more onto 60, but while it's on 60 and still climbing, it's fine. This is where the 100% thing would come in. I don't tend to climb very steeply. In this particular situation, I don't really need to climb particularly steeply. I'm just going to steer us a little bit towards the waypoint. It's very sensitive. As you can see here, I'm only tapping this very, very, very gently. It comes with practice, and as I said, I'm not a pro pilot, but it's a great experience. It's, you know, you do, once you get it, don't give up. That's my important advice to anyone watching this video. Don't give up. It is a little difficult at first, especially if you've never done it before, but just gentle taps, gentle taps. You can, and don't panic. Biggest thing, don't panic. Whatever happens, just don't worry about it. If you're crossing a sim and it freaks out, let your hands off, just wait for it to settle down and then just take control of it again. Okay, we're up at 99, 100, there you go. I'm going to start bringing the nose down with the up arrow, and as you see, as I push it down, my horizontal starts to come flat, but also notice how the indicator is now on 0 or just above 0. There you go. That's my straight and level flight, almost. Certainly level flight. When we straighten it up now, it'll be straight and level flight. Huh. It is a little bit of a skill to get this thing. There you go. So that's about. See how on my compass, where the little notch is at the top of. Once you've got the notch in the middle there, you're pretty much straight. Keep an eye on your vertical speed indicator. Notice it's going down. It was starting to lose height a little bit. So just nudge your nose. Now this particular aircraft has got a simulated trim. And in the real world, once you get yourself like this and you don't want to keep pulling the yoke back a bit to keep yourself at the right height, you adjust the trim, and the trim then means you can let go and it will just stay at the height. In theory, real pilots will tell you in practice that doesn't always happen. But yeah, that happens. But for now, in here, you can have it on and use it. I'm not going to show you how to do it because it's difficult to do in mouse lock and I have to come out of the thing and everything. So, but that's a thing for you to play with. Now, looking at the navigation here on the GPS on the left, you can see that we're heading towards that LHAD waypoint, which we looked at earlier on. So we know we're going the right way. Again, just keeping an eye out just to make sure I'm not going to crash into anyone, and making sure that my height stays above 100. And of course, look out of the window, enjoy the sights. See, coming up to where Tradewinds is there. There are beautiful views from flying, it's amazing. But it's also, once you get used to it, definitely as relaxing as like sailing is. You know, you learn your aircraft, you'll get a favourite, you'll find one that you love flying, you like how it flies. You've got used to how it flies and you learn how to control it. So we're turning right now because we want to go north. You can safely turn to about that angle, which is about 45 degrees. I wouldn't go more than that unless you become very good at it. I'm not, so I'm not going to start throwing it around too much. There we go, and we're heading like, so I mean, gentle taps. With Second Life, it can get a bit twitchy, like especially there. When you're crossing a sim, same rules apply as they do with other vehicles. If you see a sim crossing coming, just wait until you cross it and then carry on adjusting. No point trying to adjust any of your things while you're crossing it, because bad things can happen if you start pushing the buttons at that point. So there's our other waypoint, look, Arizo. See it on the little GPS map there. If you haven't got the HUD or can't afford to buy this HUD, don't worry, you can plot it. Remember, you've got the ability to go and look on the website first, write down where you want to go so that you can remember, and just write your waypoints down in a notepad or on a piece of paper or whatever you want to do. If you've got multiple monitors, of course, you could just have that website open in another monitor and then you could just use it like that. That's absolutely fine. So I'm not doing a lot here. I'm using the up arrow to push the nose down, the down arrow to lift the nose up. That's something that new pilots have to learn to do. What I would also do, by the way, which I haven't done because, believe it or not, flying and talking and doing a video at the same time is actually quite difficult because it distracts you. Normally I would have taken my throttle right down to about 70 at this point to slow me down a little bit instead of me booming at 90. But I would also have turned the landing light off as soon as I took off. So let's just turn the landing light off so we're not dazzling people as we're flying around. Okay, so about 70. I mean, I don't know, a lot of aircraft have in the manual a speed that they say is the good cruise throttle. I don't know what it is on this one, in honesty, but I find that 70, it's not too slow, it's not too fast. It gives me more time to do things. As you saw there, you can get off track very quickly the faster you're moving. Just trying to bring it around a little bit. Again, look at that. You see how that did that? I'm only tapping very gently when it did that. So you just need to learn to make corrections for it. Right, are we across that sim? Yes, we are. Okay. Okay, I don't want to crash into the blimp that's right in front of me. So, and I don't know if that blimp's a person or just fixed, but we'll gently keep leaning to the left a bit so that we avoid it. Again, this aircraft's quite nice because it's a training aircraft. It is designed to help you learn to fly. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. I don't know that it's the easiest aircraft to fly. As I say, I'm not a pro, but I have flown things before, so it gives me some kind of. You kind of get a sixth sense to flying things, and you just do stuff automatically. And I really do apologise if I'm doing anything automatically and not telling you. But I'm not. I mean, my fingers aren't on the keys. This plane flies itself. It's on the 70%. You've just got to keep an eye on that and keep gently tapping the down arrow just to keep the nose up a little bit so it doesn't lose height. We're actually a bit low anyway. I should, again, not paying attention while I'm talking and flying. That will bring it up a little bit. Now I've forgotten, because I'm rubbish, what height it said we were supposed to be on the approach plate. I think it said 99 meters. So we're about right now anyway, so we'll stick around this height. There's no one around. I can see somebody on a boat down below, but this will either go really well or terribly wrong. Now, on this particular flight, I'm just showing you how to fly the plane between one place and another. I didn't actually show you how to do freight, but the freight is exactly the same as it is on any other vehicle video you've watched. I would have loaded the plane up in exactly the same way, and I would deliver it in exactly the same way. Nothing changes as far as that's concerned. So that would just be showing you what you probably already know. If you're not sure how to do the GTFO part of this and you've just found this video, go and look at the introduction videos for GTFO. They'll explain how to do deliveries, and it's the same for aircraft, the way you use the hood. I mean, in fact, I'll just show you very briefly at the end what it looks like, just in case, just to save you having to click around all over the place. Okay, so we're at about 103. I'm going to go flaps approach, FA, on this plane. This will help me to slow down a bit without falling out of the sky, and also slow me down a bit so I've got a bit more control. Its flaps basically allow you to slow your aircraft down, but also allow you not to lose lift, because without getting too heavy into the theory of flying, you need thrust which pulls you forward to make you lift. Obviously, as you slow down, you lose the amount of lift you've got and start to fall. So by having the flaps which kind of adjust the shape of the wing a bit, it gives you that extra bit of lift, but it does cause drag, which basically slows you down. But in this case, we want to slow down because we want to land it. We don't want to actually be flying like crazy. Now, I think our approach plate said 99. As you can see from this, even if you get it wrong, those plates are handy to just get yourself close enough to where you're supposed to be. You can see the runway there. Now you can see why I said we should have given ourselves go back a bit, because I'm really quite close to this runway. However, at this speed and this gentle kind of come in, right, now we're facing it, we're going to go full flaps down. I'm going to take it down to 40% throttle. As you can see, I'm miles off. Now, if you'd have done it from further back, you would have had a lot more time to get this straight, and believe it or not, it probably would have been straight. But because I'm chatting away and not paying attention, I've come in at a strange angle. But I think what it's important to show you is it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It doesn't. You'll get good at it. As you can see, this thing's controlling itself. I'm not touching anything at the moment. I've just steered it a little bit so it keeps steering the way I want it to. Now, I'm terribly at the wrong height, and a lot of the proper pilots will be chuckling to themselves at the minute, as they can see I don't even have the right approach going on here. But just keep yourself gentle, keep yourself slow. It's still coming down. You can see on my thing it's not doing the 6% that was recommended, 6 degrees even, but as you can see I'm coming in gentle. What's important here is that I'm steering it left and right. Alright, and as I come in, we're crossing the sim, that's always a frightening bit. Wait a second for it to pull back, then start to bring your nose up. There we go, nose up. Notice I'm bringing my nose up. Bring my nose up again, look, and I should touch down. Hear the stall? A little bit of stall in real life is not a bad thing. I got a rubbish score, 41. Again, probably because I stalled it, believe it or not. But I think they prefer you to roll in Second Life, so take your speed down because it won't let you steer the aircraft until you slow down. Yeah, trying to make a video and fly at the same time is difficult. If I wasn't talking and paying attention, I might have made less of a mess of that. But you get the general idea, right? If you come in gently like that, and you come in with the right speed, and don't stall it as much as I did at the end, so that you kind of land on the runway but keep rolling, you'll get a good score. I actually got about 79 the other day, so I'm obviously not doing too bad. Notice the green lights. I'm following the green lights, and here you'll see when it goes to red if it does. Now I'm cruising around at about 25%. I usually 20% really for a taxi speed. You wouldn't want to taxi much faster than that. But that's a basic flying in Second Life. Just get it up there with the arrow keys, and as long as you don't crash it, then you're doing good. That's the important thing. But you can quite happily fly aircraft around. I didn't stick the landing lights back on either. So all manner of operating problems there. But right, see this? I'm following it to the left where it's green. There isn't a general aviation parking area as such on here, I don't think. So for the purposes of this video, and because this airfield's currently empty and hasn't got anybody here, I'm just going to stop here. Normally what I prefer to do is I prefer to find a nice place where it looks like I'm supposed to park, just to get myself out of the way, and I'll either stay there with the engine on or engine off until I decide I'm going to take off again. I'm just going to turn the engine off, I think, for this, just so it's not making loads of noise, and we'll just turn off the fuel pump so it's not making loads of noise, and turn the avionics off if it lets me. There we go. Alright, okay, so I'm going to hop out of the plane there, look, just to show you the loading and unloading. That was a basic flight. Hopefully that wasn't too frightening, and it gave you a general idea of what it's like to fly from A to B, using some of the tools that are available. There's lots of people in the community. As I say, I'll put links so that you can ask people about flying, and hopefully they'll teach you to fly better than me. But the fact is, you've seen me do it. Now if I can do it, then I'm pretty sure you can. So don't be shy, get your plane, get out there and enjoy it. To load it, same as you would do anywhere else in GTFO, click on the hood, get cargo, choose your job. It's a courier job for me because it's a tiny little plane, I only carry a few bags. Here's your list of airfields. I could say that I wanted to go to SLIA, for example. I'd choose it, choose a job as I would any other time, click load job, confirm it, and it will load up my aircraft just the same way as it would load any other vehicle, which we'll just demonstrate here, and give it a few seconds, and it should, when it's finished time, it's loaded, and that's it. Then you just go through your procedure, get on the runway, fly off, land at your destination, deliver your goods in exactly the same way as any other vehicle, and that's it. You've just enjoyed delivering GTFO by air. The aviation hobby has so much available in it, from a point of view of realism, like I say, with flight plans and hoods and procedures and how to do it properly. There's a lot of places for you to go, so you can either be someone who just likes to take the plane up and fly around, as long, you know, just fly your own way as long as you don't crash into anyone, and that's absolutely fine. But if you really do fancy getting really into it and doing it like the real pilots do, there's loads of people in Second Life who I'm sure will be able to help you with that. There we go, that says okay. And that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that gave you a little bit of a taste of flying in SL, and I will see you all again soon.